dragon.
Perfect.
What's up, Oscar?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. It's just kind of winding down for the week. I mean, weekend, I guess. Not,
Yeah.
just same as always. Working, doing my thing. What about you?
Doing good, man. Just, my week is like, I don't know, it's still kind of really in the mix. I got like just a break here in the middle of it all, but then I got the weekend coming up is kind of going to be doing some stuff. I got a lot going on, dude. Like, so a couple of projects. I just landed a project, dude. Like I would say this is my biggest project ever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a custom web application, which is like 18 grand, man, which is like, for me, that's great,
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Are you building it from scratch, or are you building it on top of WordPress, or what?
I'm going to do a custom web application built on top of WordPress.
That's great.
Using all the custom functions and, stuff like that. So,
Sure.
yeah, but that's cool, man. So I got a down payment for a new car. So I'm going to be getting a new car soon, trading in my old something. I got to do something.
Sure. No, that's great. I'm glad to hear. I think I saw you posting maybe a week or two ago about it on Facebook. That you landed that, right?
Dude. Yeah, they finally signed it, and they're like, "Let's do it." I'm like, "Cool."
That's so great, and it's so good that it happened right now when all this stuff is going down. Like, it seems like
I know, dude.
Seems like everybody's getting the opposite. Like.
I know with the coronavirus, right?
Yeah, like everybody's getting contracts canceled and stuff.
Dude, I didn't even apply for any loans. I haven't taken any loans or anything from the government. I thought about doing like the loans, but
sure.
I'm just like, man, I don't know if I want to do it. But
yeah,
this was really help.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I did, but I think like a week ago. I mean, I applied months ago for one of the loans, and I think like maybe a week or two ago, I got a response saying, "Hey, we're still looking into it." Like basically hang tight. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, how long does it take you to look into it? Like, either tell me yes or no,
Government is so slow, man. It's so slow.
It's so bureaucratic. Did you know? Well, first of all, I mean, yeah, because this is kind of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about, and we'll get into it. But
yeah.
So I can cut out the first part where you mentioned the money of your project or whatever. I don't.
Right.
So, but from here on out, we'll keep it recorded, and then I'll publish it on YouTube if you're cool with that. Yeah.
I'm cool.
Yeah. Obviously, you can republish anywhere you want. If you want the raw video, I'll send it to you as well. It's up to you. And,
okay. Cool.
Yeah, because I know you've been doing a little bit of live videos here and there, and you get some. The reason I wanted to have you on is because you get some very interesting discussions going on, and
I get some flack. I'm a pot stirrer, man. I stir the pot.
Yeah, and I see that, and I commend you for just the patience that you have in dealing with some of the comments that you get, and we could get into it a little bit in a minute. But for those of you guys watching, and Verious, I don't think he actually knows, but what happened is a few weeks back, actually about a month ago, this has been happening. This comes up every year for me where I want to do a podcast and video kind of discussion like we're having right now. And kind of keeps coming up, and I have friends that I want to do something with, and we want to do it like on a regular basis. But what happens is something always comes up. And then we had something ready to get started back before, like in February, and then Corona hit us, and it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Dude, oh my goodness. Yeah, no, Corona actually, I think like, it was more of a mental thing for me because I could have moved forward on some things that I was doing.
Sure.
But I can relate to you because like mentally, I felt like the world stopped, and that kind of hindered me in some ways from like continuing to move forward because like I'm wearing a t-shirt for one of the things that I'm doing right now, starting Powerwire.
Sure.
And it's like all about, startups and small businesses. I could have been producing content for this thing all along, but because Corona kind of mentally, like, the world is stopping,
Yeah, and it's got everybody in a twist, and so when it ended up happening, I started creating content, but kind of just on my own, going back to my YouTube videos, blogs, and
Yeah.
ramping it up. And you're part, I think I invited you to my content group recently.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you. Thank
that's
you.
kind of a thing I'm trying to drive for myself and lead a group by example, but to show you can't
Yeah.
post, 15, 20 times a day and make it valuable, not just trivial stuff. But
Yes.
then something else happened in recent times, and the whole George Floyd thing. And I made some posts
Mm.
about that, and I immediately got flack from people. And it was like, you need to basically, this is what I was told, and it wasn't by one person, and it was multiple times. So
Yeah.
you need to shut up and listen to black people. That was literally the message, and quote word for word what a lot of people said. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I have been always in as part of the community. I've always helped people regardless of their
Yeah.
background, social, race, gender, any of that. And I just published another call I had with somebody where we talked a little bit about that, and I told her what I've told her before because I've worked with her for years, and I said I help the people that show me they want to work and they want to be helped. I don't care
Right.
if
Right.
you're yellow, purple, black, red, brown. It does not matter. But
Right.
if you come,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you come to me and say, oh, I need your help and I can't pay you, I say, well, okay, maybe I'll help you, maybe not. And then I get a little bit of information from them as to what they want to do, what is their goals and visions. And most of them don't have goals and visions, and that's fine because they're
Right.
just starting out. I say, okay, let's do this. And I give them a little mini plan and say, I need you to write 30 blog posts in the next 30,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
next,
Get going.
yeah, next,
Kickstart.
exactly, next 30 days, next 45 days, come back to me in a month and show me what you've done.
Yes.
And it goes crickets, silent,
Dude, it is
silent.
so true. I mean, and well, I could say, from my experience, like what I do with my clients is I put them on like kind of a marketing plan.
Yeah,
So I'll do their website for them, and then I put them on like a 1 year marketing plan. And like
sure.
part of that marketing plan is creating content.
Yeah,
That's like pulling teeth, man. It's like the hardest thing to get from
right.
people is the creation of content. And I understand I think there's a mental block somewhere
There is.
where people don't want to create content.
Yeah, and um, I'll come back to that right now. But why don't you tell us really quick, everybody
Yeah.
watching, tell us who Verious is. Give us a little background, how you came to be, and who you are.
All right. So let me say, I am I'm at heart like an a creative. Like I really am just like I believe like, man, whatever I have in front of me, I can solve the problem with creativity. So that makes me a really big entrepreneur, like what I do currently. And this is why I put it this way, because I'm not just one thing, I'm a lot. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So sometimes people say, what do you do? Like the main thing that brings in my income is web development, you
Yeah.
know, but I have a lot of other things. Web development and internet marketing, it's like really like the main thing. I run a meetup group in the Inland Empire called the Inland Empire WordPress Meetup Group. I also have, you know, like several other little ventures, but the one newest venture that I'm starting right now is Start Empire Wire, which it's dealing with startups and entrepreneurs and things like that. And like yeah, the biggest thing that has kept me busy has been my web development, internet marketing, and then running events here in Southern California, the Inland Empire. So meetup groups, and then also these conferences that I run, which are once a year called WordCamp. And then outside of that, I trade in the stock market.
I saw
I
that you're
do a
doing
lot
that.
of I do a lot of little things, and so I'm also going to be teaching a class coming up really soon. And so at heart, I'm an entrepreneur, a teacher, but just more of a creator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, for those of you guys who don't know, Inland Empire is in California, Southern California, a little bit inland, of course, so it's not a coast city, but um,
Right. It's like 58 cities. So
Yeah,
58 cities.
it's a huge county, huge area, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's San Bernardino County, and it's two counties: San Bernardino County and Riverside County,
Right.
and 58 cities in between all of those. I counted them because of the thing that I'm doing,
Sure.
and there's the demographics here. It's that like it's almost like people skip over the Inland Empire to go to San Diego County
Yep.
or LA County or Orange County. Inland Empire is a big place with two counties that doesn't get as much attention. So
Right.
but it's a lot going on over here. So like
Sure.
one of the goals for me with the Start Empire is that I'm trying to bring some attention over here as well, So
Yeah, and then you originally come from Texas, is that right?
yes, that's right. I'm originally a Texan, born and raised in Houston, Texas. Went to university, got my bachelor's degree in visual communication, concentration, digital marketing.
Okay, so you're doing what you studied. Okay.
Pretty much. So like
Some degree.
graduated from there. A lot of my classmates actually graduated year of 2009. 2009, I walked the stage, graduated, got my bachelor's degree. And then I looked for a job for a year. I was working as a substitute teacher. I wanted a job in my field.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was hard to find a job. Finally found a job and got, hired there, moved away from home, and lived in my own apartment for about 4 months. And then they laid me off from my job.
Oh.
After 4 months, and I had a new car and I had a new apartment and I had a bunch of bills. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I decided to go full-time freelancer, did a bunch of cold calls, got some business. Rent was paid. I was happy. Almost got evicted a couple of times though, because it's not easy. It was a struggle.
Sure.
And so I just chose to work out the struggle and make it to where I don't have to ever go back to work as an employee, because I don't want to ever be an employee again,
Sure. No,
So,
that
yeah.
makes sense. A lot of people feel that way. And
Yeah.
so when you went freelance, that's when you moved over here?
So yeah, I went freelance in 2010, August of 2010. It wasn't like it was kind of by choice because I always wanted to be a freelancer, but I didn't have enough courage or confidence to actually just like step out on my own and not do anything else but freelance, like completely dive in. So when I got the full-time job, I felt comfortable enough to give up substitute teaching
Okay.
and to move away from my home and to move into my own apartment. I felt comfortable. I was like, man, this is great. And then when they laid me off, I was immediately uncomfortable again. And I was like, do I go back and do substitute teaching, or do I actually try to get another full-time job in my field? What do I do? But I just felt like an eagle being kicked out of a nest.
Yeah.
I kind of got a vision of that in my head, and I was like, okay, this is my eagle moment. It's time to fly. So yeah, I chose to stay there. And in 2010 till 2012, I moved from Houston. Was dating a girl out here in California. Moved to Vegas first. My dad lives in Vegas. Lived with him for 6 months. Then moved to California, July of 2012, and started the WordPress meetup group actually August of 2012. So the very next month after I moved out here, I started that meetup group. I knew it was going to
In 2012.
In 2012. I knew it was going to help me, in my business and have, kind of a group of people I'm working with, because I was just working from my apartment and that was incredibly lonely. It was actually really hard, and I didn't have any coworkers. So in Vegas, I actually went to the Vegas meetup group, and I was like, this is really cool. I want to do something like this where I moved to. So they gave me the idea from the Vegas meetup group to start the Inland Empire group. But actually first I was going to try to go to the Orange County one, and I figured out how far Orange County group was away from me. And I was like, I don't want to be driving that far. I don't even know California. So I'm going to start my own over here.
That's great.
So, that's kind of a short story right there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And there's so much that I want to ask you about all that stuff. But basically, I'm glad that I met you. I'm glad and we met through WordPress.
We met through the WordPress community. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember exactly if it was at a work camp or a WordPress meetup. I think maybe it was at Steve's meetup a couple of times.
It was probably an Orange County meetup. I think I went over there a couple of times with Greg.
Okay.
Franklin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I know Greg. Yeah, and that I think. I mean, that's where I met Greg. So that I probably met you at an OC
Yeah.
WordPress meetup, and Steve actually just joined my group as well. But so
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's WordPress is a great tool and stuff, and
It's
yeah,
and the community is cool too. It's kind of a big community.
it is, and you know what? I've been in WordPress since day one. Well,
Hmm.
not day one, but I started using WordPress like just before Matt released version 1.4. So
Wow.
I had just installed it, and I was having all kinds of issues. My friend was helping me get it working, and then he released like 1.4, and I think that's when it became very usable for most people.
Yes.
And then, we still had to do a bunch of hacks to make things work right and stuff.
Yeah, they didn't even have custom post types during that time.
Oh no, custom post ups are like little babies right now. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been, in regards to the community, I've been there for a long time, and
Yes.
then in the past few years, I've seen some changes that I was not too happy with, so I pulled away from the community
Mm.
quite a bit.
Yeah, the community it morphs and changes like
It
really.
does.
I mean, it's like nowadays I'm very much involved with the community
Right,
or
you
as
you
much
lead a
as
group, and
possible because
yeah,
I lead the group. Yeah.
yeah, and that's great. And I thought about starting groups before, but Steve does such a great job with the one in
Orange County.
Orange
Yeah.
County, and I didn't want to be the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to start the Irvine one. It's like, no, Orange County is great. Like, why would we go
Yeah.
to an Irvine one when it's 10 minutes down the street? Like, what are you trying to do? And I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And then there was San Diego one, which is like, so I'm kind of in the middle geographically of the three,
Right.
like your meetup, San Diego and Orange County.
Right.
And I didn't think it would be a good thing to just start another WordPress one. Like, in any
Right.
case, yeah.
But
And
you
then,
got the entrepreneur one that you
yeah,
do, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did actually just before 2012 too, because that's when my daughter was born. So I kind of use it as a marker for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, just before that, maybe 2010, 2011, I started a blogging group, and I just wanted to teach people how to blog and how to do stuff with WordPress from a
Yeah.
blogging perspective. So I wasn't teaching people, and then that group, and then I merged with a friend, and we created the .com lifestyle one, which is basically digital marketing and entrepreneurial
Yeah.
driven about anything and everything. And right now things are also changing, so that's why I'm doing the content marketing, because I think
Right.
that's where it goes the most. But that's where we have the most kind of unexplored
Yeah.
horizon, kind of like the new wild
Yeah.
wild west, especially with everything that's going on. And kind of to
That's
touch back,
true.
yeah, kind of to touch back on what you were saying about the clients. You give them this platform to work on, and then they don't do anything, and it is like pulling teeth. But the one thing that drives me crazy is, for example, I think, and I'm assuming that those people that you were mentioning, that sometimes you give them a year of planning or helping and stuff, those are paid clients, right?
Those are paid clients. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, hey, you know what? If you want to pay me and then ignore everything I told you, by all means, knock yourself out. Like, hey, it's your
I
money.
know.
The
Exactly.
the thing that
But
bothers me the most is when somebody comes to me and say, "Oh, I don't have money," or "I can't help you," and I say, "Well, do this work. Show. Okay, if you don't have money, then you have time.
you have
We
time and
we have,
creativity.
yeah, like you get creative. Oh, I have a job. Well, when you come home, have dinner, bust 2 hours of writing, and then over the past few years, I've changed that
Yeah.
requirement from 30 to 50 block. It used to be 50 block was, and people
Yeah.
people thought I was crazy. I said, well,
Uh,
you know,
like, but they don't understand the scale. Like, you really don't understand the
right,
scale of content you need to really rank
e-
and
exactly.
get your name noticed. Get
Yeah,
attention. Really, it's all about getting attention. So if you think about like a fire, a candle will get a certain amount of attention. A
right,
bonfire gets that much more attention. You
exactly.
know,
But what do you need for the bonfire? You need a pallet of wood. You need a
and
pile
you need
of fuel.
lots of kindling.
Right, exactly. So what I did is I cut back the number a little bit. I still made it 30, so it's a challenge, but it's not
Yes.
undoable. I've launched, I think I have over 12 different blogs out there, like blog
Yeah,
sites independently, and every one of them I launch with no less than 30 blog posts. That's my kind of rule of thumb because
I use, honestly, I don't know where that came from because I do that with my clients as well. I usually tell them, give me 20 to 30 blog posts before
sure,
you launch.
my
And most of them don't.
right. The reason I came up with that is because that gives me a month of buffer time to
Yeah,
to try to do a daily blog post. If it's a topical
right,
blog, if it's a niche blog, then the
right.
best thing is to publish something every day. And
Yeah,
like that, if I crank out 30 blog posts in 2 weeks behind the scenes, and I launch and I have 30 blog posts ready there, maybe I'll publish 3 right away and then 1 every day. But I'm kind of trailing that so I can add more to the end of it and
yep,
not get overwhelmed by, hey, I had to miss a day because of whatever. There's
yeah. And you
'cause-
can schedule them in WordPress. You can
exactly.
actually put them like to be published on a certain day.
Yeah. Yeah, then that's one of the best things about it. And so what I did for people that say, oh, I can't write. I say, okay, fine. These are the 2 cornerstones for content and marketing: is either written long form or
Hmm.
video. One of the 2. That's where
Yeah,
we're moving forward, because this video that we're doing right now, we can easily abstract the audio. Now we have a podcast. So anybody listening, you could be
yep.
listening to this on just audio. And so
Transcription.
yeah, then from the audio you can transcribe it, and then you have kind of a blog post, and you can just
Yes.
edit it. So those are cornerstone content for me. So I always tell people, hey, either do the blog post, or I say, give me 5 full, well done videos.
Very good.
98% of the time they don't do it, especially when it's free. So I
Wow.
said, hey,
5. Oh, especially when it's free. Yeah, free is the problem. You said,
right.
like
Well,
you said
well,
it. Yeah,
what I said is like, hey, I will help you
yeah,
for 6 months to a year with, every couple of weeks we'll have a coaching call. I'll give you some direction. I'll give you critiques and stuff
right.
at no charge, so long as you do the work. You don't
How to
come.
do. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
great deal. That's a great deal, man.
Well, and here's the thing. So I was going to mention, you are the 4th person I have on a call, and going back to what people told me, hey, you got to listen to Black people. I said, well, whatever. Like, I always
Yes,
listen, but I thought, hey, you know what? Let's do that. And
yes.
I posted something on my Instagram stories about white privilege, and this is where we're gonna
Yeah.
get into dicey territory, because
All
I know.
right, let's do it.
Um,
You
and
know
then,
me, I'm
oh, I
Mr.
know,
Controversial,
oh, I know,
so
I know. That's yeah,
I don't mind taking some heat.
yeah. Well, I'm already out there. Yesterday, I was called everything short of a racist, and
Mm,
it was a very disheartening thread that somebody pretty much just kind of very,
yeah.
very, how would you say, pretentious and condescendingly put me down. I thought, well, everybody's got their
Mm.
own issues, and they're projecting it. But
Projection. Yeah.
yeah, but so I posted the story, and my friend who's Black said, hey, you know what? And by the way, if you wanted to see it, the video's been posted. Anybody listening, watching, you can go watch it. It's the first episode of Let's Talk About It. And
Okay. What's your friend's name? What's his
his name is Sam Day. He's also an
Sam Day? Okay.
internet marketer. Kind of in the same space as you and I are.
Yeah.
And the premise I posted. Do you know who Patrick Bet David is? The
Yeah.
valuetainment guy. Yeah. So he posted
How
a
you saying?
story. Yeah, he posted a story saying, "Hey, I don't believe in white privilege," and he explained
Yeah.
it. I shared that post, and so he was the first person to respond and say, "Hey, I think there's more to it." And
Yeah.
that's when it kind of clicked on me. I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna listen to these people that were berating me, telling me to listen to Black people." And I told my friend Sam, "Hey, you know what? We can't, like, whatever response I give you right now, it's gonna get lost in text." And I said, there's a lot more to it from my side of you. There's a lot more to it, I'm
Yes.
sure, as you said. So why don't we get on a Zoom call and talk about it? And boom, 2 hours later, we were on a Zoom call, and that was my first call. So I thought,
Awesome.
hey, and as I'm having that call, I'm getting messages from somebody else about how wrong I am. You need to listen to this Black people and be quiet about it. I'm like, okay. And we got off the call. Then the next day started another call, which I haven't published yet. I haven't processed it yet, but it will be up sooner or later.
Yeah.
And then I thought, hey, anytime. somebody calls me out on something I said, I am the first person willing to listen, and I will listen to you. As long as you can articulate what the problem is with what I said, I'll hear it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm even willing to change my mind if you can convince me, but I'm not going to simply believe this emotional wave, tidal wave of bullying, basically telling me I need to shut up
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
anything because I don't know anything. It's like every
Right.
single person has their own experience, their own perspective. And if we're shutting other people down because they don't agree with us, I think that's more problematic, which I hate that word, but
Yeah. Yeah. No.
that's
Right.
that than anything else that may actually be causing some of these issues that are coming to surface. So
Yeah.
this is where we are today. You are kind of like my fourth guest, and I don't
All
know
right.
how I don't know how long I'll do this. I want to talk about whatever. You know, I told you in our quick chat I want to do kind of like a Joe Rogan style, just hey, bring up whatever.
Yeah.
But what is your take on white privilege? And is
Mm.
is it a is it a is it a real thing? Do you believe it is? Can you define it? Tell me.
Well, I guess the way, some people have put, privilege or white privilege out there is that, someone has an advantage over another person, And so I believe that advantages that people have over are real, have over others are real. Um, I just don't think that that should become the focus of anybody. So, like, say for instance, um, let's just say, you know, when people refer to white privilege, many times they are referring back to like a generational advantage that white people have over black people or people of color because of a history of racism in the United States. For instance, a lot of things that people bring up is redlining,
It's
and the
what?
effects of something called redlining.
Okay.
Redlining was basically um, it was a practice where there were intentionally districts drawn to enact um, a sort of like a systemic racism, not sort of. This was actually literally a form of racism written into law, and where they would draw districts where um, people would be schooled at, and certain schools receive more property taxes because they are, you know, zoned to the right school district. And most of the times they're
Is it?
like, uh, because segregation was a little bit more real. They weren't the ghettos. They were
Right.
like the rich neighborhoods that would get more school property taxes. That's the redlining thing,
Sure.
But what were you gonna say? Is it what?
No, I was gonna say, isn't that gerrymandering or something where like
Well,
there are
that's
people?
more of a yeah. It's not the same thing.
Okay.
It's a more gerrymandering is more of a like a political thing where you're drawing districts for like different politicians to be in the House of Representatives or you
Right, but
know
it seems like from what I understand in that case, it seems like they get arbitrarily or somewhat on a whim decided to include and exclude certain people in their district for them to remain or stay in power. So
I think
in a
it's
way you
similar.
in a way you're saying that it's kind of the same thing but in a racial perspective.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
similar, but that this was like before integration,
Got it. Okay.
because this was before like civil rights movement and before integration. I believe it was like 1975 when it was outlawed. And
Okay.
so it hasn't been that long since that's been a practice. And then you also have the Southern Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
So like the Jim Crow laws in the South were drastically more evident as racial laws, like dehumanizing racial laws, which were very racially motivated because
Sure.
there was, you know, and so I grew up in Texas. I remember waking up one morning, not one morning, one late night, looking out like as a kid, because I lived with my grandparents. they had 12 acres of land, and we lived in population 700 city, but
Wow.
it was all white people, you know, and this was like me being like 5 years old. I was born in 82, so it's probably 80, like 80, no, probably like around 90 something. Like,
Okay.
I don't think I was 5 years old. I moved out there with them when I was 5 years old, but it was sometime when I was younger, waking up in the middle of the night, looking out of our window, and there was a cross burning on our front lawn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the Ku Klux Klan was a real encounter for me.
Sure.
And
Like you actually
this,
experienced it
that I actually experienced them.
in mid
So
80s. So
this
yeah.
this was like early 90s,
Okay.
mid 80s, early 90s, back where I lived out in Texas. Also went to a school that was all white kids, grown like as I was growing up in this little country town. I'm pretty sure that some administrators in the school, some of the wives, some of the teachers had some ties into some racial groups like Ku Klux
Sure.
Klan. I remember one teacher, third grade teacher of mine, was like, she did not like me. It was just like, I like, I don't know if you ever experienced where a person, they smile at you, but in your gut, in your heart,
Yep.
you feel like this person just really don't like me. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
I've felt that. Yeah, of course.
And I felt that way about this teacher. And
Sure.
I was a very smart kid. I excelled all A's and everything else. In her class, I did horribly. And I felt,
Mm.
and I remember her embarrassing me so many different times. The lady was she had to be racist. I don't know, but my mom didn't like her,
Sure.
And so
And you said this was mostly a
this was it's
mostly
a white,
white classroom.
predominantly white classroom, white school.
Yeah.
It was a small country school. So like, this is my experience with racism,
Sure.
Get a little bit older, going to the same school, middle school. I get in a fight, with a guy who calls me the N-word.
Uh-huh.
And I literally don't have a knuckle on this hand right here. My right hand, my pinky, there is no knuckle because I broke this bone in my hand, like hitting the dude on the back of the head,
Wow.
because we got into a fight for him calling me an N-word.
Okay.
And like, I literally have no knuckle. So like, what did I take away from this? Like, I had my instances of like, running into, people who were actually racist.
Yeah.
They had this form of hatred in their heart,
Yeah.
and that's really what it boils down to me. Like, I feel like that's just a form of hatred.
Yeah.
Um,
It is.
and
I mean, the definition of it is either what is it? Is it either the hatred of other races or the belief that your own is superior to other ones, right?
you're honest. Yep, that's right. So like, when it comes down to like privilege, I went in that whole circle just because I wanted to give a little bit of
Yeah. Yeah.
background.
No. I get
But
it. Yeah.
so I want people to realize that I'm like not some person who has never experienced racism, or that I'm ignorant to racism, because some of the things that I say, people think, you don't believe in racism? And I'm
Right.
like, that's not true.
That's what I was told yesterday.
And I'm like, it's not even about what I believe in, because I think it's equal as there are people who have this hatred in their heart. There are equally people who don't have this hatred in their heart. And like, my perspective on life is that what you focus on, you're going to get more of. So
I
it's
agree.
a deliberate discipline of mine to not focus on the evil that people are doing, but to focus on like the positive that people are doing. And also, one of the biggest things that I think is lost today is that people don't know how to distinguish one thing from another. So I talked with a friend,
But let, as we go on to that, let me just ask you this question, and then you go on. Do you
yes,
think that they cannot distinguish, or do you think that they purposely conflate things? But go on.
I think it's probably a mixture of both.
Okay.
So there's like the purpose conflation, where they want to attribute negative things to someone who is no longer in there, and maybe they have this motive of power behind that,
Yeah.
because literally these are all little power skirmishes. That's
Right.
really what it is. And when a person is seeking power over others, like, these skirmishes become very important, but
Mm-hmm.
they divide, and they don't realize that the people who have the true power are have a lot of power, not true power, but they have a lot of power, are politicians, and they want to keep us divided so they can keep their jobs and blah 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 and try to solve our problems.
Right.
So, like, you see how I said try to solve our problems. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
they usually don't solve our problems. It's only us who can solve our problems.
Yeah. I mean, how many laws do we need? How many legislators do we need to make new laws every day, and why? Like,
Exactly.
we already have
Yeah.
laws covering everything that they make a new law for. They just
It's
want
so
to
crazy.
justify their job. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So like, when you say privilege, or when people say white privilege, like, that's something I feel like is dismissible, because because of my perspective.
Yeah.
It's because of my perspective. I don't think there's any such thing as, like, something that can hold anybody back with when a person has a proper mindset. So let's just say you grow up in a family, that's African American, Black family, like me,
Yeah.
and you don't have, like, money or pennies to your name, like my mom. Like, I won't go into the story of my family, but my dad was not around raising me growing up. My grandmother and grandparents were there, so I had a little bit of a good stable, kind of some stable stuff coming in. But as I got older, like, my mom took, she let me just say it this way: she did her best that she could with what she had,
Sure.
but we still had little to nothing. You know what I mean?
Sure. That sounds very familiar
And
to me in every way that
yeah,
you've said so far.
right. And so I ended up, like, like, what really made a difference in my life was learning to break away from the culture. Because there's a particular culture as a Black person, there's a particular culture in the Black community that may not be experienced by Asians or Caucasians, but in the Black community, there's a culture. And I'll summarize it in this way: like, from, like, the age of, or from sixth grade, probably sixth grade, when I till ninth grade. I got in that fight in eighth grade where I broke my knuckle. Like, I was pretty much, like, following Black culture to a T. I was trying to be a gangster. I was influenced heavily by my cousin and my brother, older cousin, older brother. I was selling weed at school. I was smoking weed regularly. As a little kid, I would wake up
Wow.
looking through ashtrays for, like, beaties
Like a
of
roach.
of
Yeah.
of roaches, of joints. And I was I was always creative. So I created my own, like, dude, I created my own bong when I was, like, in eighth grade.
Wow.
I Coke bottle with tinfoil at the top, and a
Sure.
little straw. And I created my own bong. I actually created a tattoo gun, dude. Gave myself a tattoo on my shoulder. Like,
Wow.
but I was, like, trying to do the whole thug life thing. I was listening to Tupac a lot. I still like Tupac,
Yeah.
but the lyrics in these rap songs don't affect me the way they used to. I was so impressionable at that time
Yeah.
that everything that they say in the rap, it was what I thought I needed to live, and I was
Sure.
trying to do that. And so a few events happened in my life that helped me kind of break away from wanting to be a part of that culture. Number one, like, um, there was a murder. A cousin of mine who was close to mine murdered someone, and I knew about it.
Oh,
A
so
lot of people,
a relative
yeah,
of yours murdered somebody else.
yeah, a
Okay.
relative, like the cousin I mentioned,
Yeah.
the cousin who was really influencing me. He murdered another another one of our cousins who was, like, a little bit further out cousin, but he murdered him, and they dumped his body in the river, and I knew about it, like,
Wow.
and that scared I'm going to try to keep my language clean here, but that's,
It's okay.
dude, that scared me. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to be a part of this life,
Sure.
like, it's like they
And you
say
and you're still like eighth, ninth grade. Is that when this?
I was actually in the ninth grade,
Okay. Yeah.
and so, and I knew about it like nobody else knew about it, but I just knew this other cousin disappeared. So that was one of the things that really, boom, it triggered me, and I was like, okay, I want to like, distance myself away from that. And then at that time, I also had a girlfriend, and she kind of broke my heart, and that like hit me hard as well. And my mom also got locked up, you know. So all of these things were going on at one time
Sure.
in my life. And my mom got locked up for possession of a hard drug. And I was like, oh dang. So all these things happening at one time, and I was just like, okay. So I actually pulled away from that. I started going to this church and this youth group and things like that. And like that really radically changed my life. I became a Christian, and I ended up going on a mission trip and all that stuff, and went to a couple of Bible schools after that. But anyway, all that to emphasize that there was a culture that I was a part of, and there was a culture like we partied. We had lots of parties, like almost every Friday night, just wild parties, crazy. I'm talking about like parties where we got like big cases of all these cheap wines, MD 2020, Cisco,
Sure.
all this stuff. We had big tables full of weed, like 3 or 4 quarter pounds of weed, and we're rolling up swishers, and we got pornography on the wall on a TV screen, and we
So
got like some it was crazy.
yeah.
It's and so it's a culture though. It was that culture that I was like, I was immersed in it.
Sure.
And so, but like I said, like I believe, to get back to the point, I believe there's a culture that keeps Black people down. That culture needs to be like just like forsaken. Like you got to get into a productive mindset, even if it's just like getting, because most of them see like the only way to make money is you either be a drug dealer, or you be an athlete, or you be a rapper, you know,
Right.
and the culture glorifies that.
Right. All three of them, and then something that people don't realize in all three of those, no matter what, is that all three of them require the same skills and the same abilities that you would on any other business if you want to
In any other
be
business.
at the top.
Yes. And and so the other thing that, just like this is a small example. Like when I was excelling in my studies, like around the time that I was like sixth grade, I did really terrible. I was like just starting to get into the rebellion. But then I started to break away from all that, like not like towards like getting towards my sophomore year. I started to break away from all that, start break away from all those friends. And my sister was always in my ear, and like, she was doing her own thing as well.
Older
But
sister.
older sister, she's not living right now. She actually passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
But yeah, she's 2 years older than me. But all through high school, we went to the same high school. But my sister was always in my ear when I was pulling out of that. She's like, you're a white boy, trying to act like a white boy. And like that's what gets me as well.
Is that
That
part of the culture?
that is
Is that
part of the culture.
right?
When you have an intellectual pursuit and you want to excel intellectually, it's looked down upon. Because I'm not out there trying to be a thug anymore. I'm not trying to run the streets. Like I'm not smoking or selling weed. I was a football player at that time. Like I found an outlet through football, powerlifting, and track. And I just got really involved with those sports. And then I started to pursue my studies more individually. And I was going to this church, this youth group as
Yeah.
well. And while I was doing all of that, this was forming my character.
Sure.
But my sister was always in my ear. Oh, look at you, white boy. Look at you, little white boy. My brother and my cousins like putting the pressure on me, because it was like, oh, you don't smoke with us no more. Oh, you
Right.
turned into Mr. Goody Two Shoes. You a white boy. Why you don't smoke with us no more? Oh, you ain't having sex? Like, oh man, come on. What's up with you? I'm
Right.
just like, that culture. It's that culture. It's a peer pressure culture to grow into or mold yourself into this particular perceived image of what a black person should be or what
Sure.
black is, you know?
Yeah.
Why does black have to be certain things?
I
And yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I've come to the conclusion that no one can define what black is. Like, you know, I know Joe Biden mentioned, you know, if you don't vote for you ain't black.
Can you? I mean, really? Can you believe that? How do
Oh
you?
my goodness. And most black people don't know that he wrote the crime bill of '94, which locked up and incarcerated
That pretty much started
thousands of black people.
It fueled the drug war even
Yes, the drug war.
more
Yes,
so than it was in the early 80s.
right.
I mean, to
And
an
it's so,
nth degree, like it's crazy.
dude, it's so crazy because like now I am more libertarian. Like I broke away from that. And for a while I went to one extreme. I went from one extreme to the other because everything that happened was so shocking, especially the murder. That was shocking to me because
Right.
my cousin was still living with me and I saw him as a danger, as a threat to me.
And well, as just before you saw him as a mentor, right?
Yep, just before that I saw him as a mentor, but then when I realized he was capable of it, cold-blooded murder. Like he shot my other cousin just in the head with a shotgun.
What was
And
I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what was the reason? What was the
they just didn't get along and they had a fight and it escalated and liquor was probably involved, you know, and they were both, you know, always kind of high and always a little bit drunk, you know. And so like I think, you know, that was probably the biggest part. Like in my other cousin, he lived out there with us. And so like I would lift weights with this dude all the time. So I saw him every day and then he just disappeared. And I'm just like, I found that out and it was just horrifying to me. So the cousin that did the murder, he's now doing 84 years in a Texas state prison.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, he like that just literally, I mean, like, I don't know if anyone, unless you experience it, I don't understand. I don't know if anyone could understand the shock of that, you know?
I think it would be very difficult, yeah.
Yeah. I hear something in the background.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's my phone. I thought I muted it.
Okay,
It's just people are responding to that video. Let me stop it. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I was hoping it wasn't coming through because I turned my mic down and stuff, but yeah.
Okay, no problem.
It should be good now.
All right. Yeah, no,
so,
dude.
You're not the first person to bring that the part, and I wrote a little response about the George Floyd thing, and my first take was this was not a racial issue. This is a power issue, and in the same way that led me into some conversations with a few people where I say I don't think it's a racial issue. I think it's a cultural issue, and I got roasted for that in that chat that I had with the one person. And
the problem, and I'm probably gonna get roasted for this video, but you know, I don't care.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
Just before you answer that, like, we have to come back to a place where I think, I mean, growing up, I saw people talking about stuff, and what nowadays seems a little squarish or cringy, like, well, I'm gonna give my points and then you're just gonna listen and then you're gonna give your points. Well, but that's how it should be. We should be able to tell somebody's point, and it's not a matter of arguing. I didn't call you in here to debate you. I didn't call here and question you. I wanted to hear your take on it and ask you questions about it so that other people can hear it. But people are so quick to be like, well, we're going to debate and we're going to argue about this and the winner takes all. And it's like, and that's exactly what happened yesterday with that thread conversation that I had. And it's like, hey, I'm not arguing with you, but you haven't even asked me a question that I can answer. You just accuse me of things. So I know you're going to get roasted. I know I'm probably going to get roasted. But at the end of the day, I believe, and the reason I have you on is because I believe you are very principled. And
that's the key word, bro. That's the key word.
That's key. Like,
and I was
principle
in my
matters.
That's one of the things I was going to say earlier. I was trying to get to that point because principle is something that I don't think a lot of people understand. Having an underlying principle for the way you respond to things or the way you live, it's hard. Like, I think people are more reactive, you
Yes.
know, than proactive in their life nowadays. So when something like George Floyd happens, you get a bunch of reactive people who lack self-control. They feel it emotionally, like
Yeah.
gutturally. Like,
And
I felt that watching
oh,
George Floyd die. I cried. I
I
I did I didn't know what to do because I felt so bad, you know?
I did as well, and it was the most irritating part about it was when you see him smirking with his hand in his pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so, like, that makes me angry, like, and I don't allow things to make me angry very often, and just even like using the phrase makes me angry,
Right.
like, I I actually, chose to be like controlled in my anger.
Sure.
But like, I think what I'm, going back to the principle thing, it's that people don't understand that, and one of the things that just comes to mind is like there's a book I read called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
He talks about principle, and principle is like the lighthouse, and it's like, they're the ship, and just for the people who listen, there's say they're the ship out in the water. He tells a story. He's like, they're the ship in the water, and he sees another ship, and the ship is beaming its light on him, and he's like, turn right, we're coming in fast. And then the other boat, which he thinks is the other ship,
Right.
says, no, you turn right. He's like,
No.
answers back, no, turn right, hurry. And then the other supposed boat turn back, says, no, you turn right, we're a lighthouse,
Right.
so it
Well,
doesn't
yeah.
matter how big you are, or who you think you are. Principles don't move, they're rock solid,
Right.
so finding the underlying principles and acting accordingly, really help to solve problems,
Right.
and
And
not blame them,
yeah, and I think what we're seeing a lot of right now is that the lack of a foundation to have a vision, because it doesn't mean that you're not going to change your mind about things, but it
exactly,
means that you're going to change your mind based on a foundational principle. And
right.
I think what a lot we're seeing a lot of people, and this is where I'm going to get roasted maybe a little bit, but I think that some people are displaying what I would refer to as white guilt, because,
Yeah,
and we saw that in the commercial with the celebrities recently, the black and white one, and then on the previous one with the Imagine one, it's like,
I watched part of that commercial, but I had to turn it off. I was just
oh,
like, I can't watch this whole thing.
it
It's
is
just,
cringe to
it's
the
cringe.
10th power, and it's like, what are you talking about that you've been hiding? What have, because one of them says something like, oh, I'm no longer going to stay silent. It's like, well, then you didn't have a principle if you saw something and you stayed silent. So
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course you're ridden with guilt. But some of
right,
us have been doing what I believe to be the right thing, and I have no guilt to feel about. If I see
exactly,
something wrong, I call it out. And if I see something right, I call it out. And if someone tells me that is actually right because this, and this, and that, I'm going to say, okay. And then I'm going to go and find out if those things that I was told were right. And then I'll change my mind. And I change my mind about a lot of things on a
exactly,
regular basis, because at the end of the day, the principle that I have to live for is I have to make a decision on the truth that I have found and the facts that I know. Because
yes,
people, and somebody told me, oh, you're like, what did they say? They say, you're like that Conway girl, the Trump's press secretary early on, where they say, oh, you're
oh
going to have
really,
they say that you're going to have alternative facts. I said, no, I'm not going to have alternative facts, but facts do change over time as we discover more things. And that's the
based on
found
information,
exactly, and that's the foundational of science, like
yep,
something that was true 50 years ago is not true today for whatever reason. So of course I'm going to change. What makes you think that you shouldn't change?
right,
but
because
but I
you
do
don't
have
have
to,
all the information all the time up front,
exactly, but I will find enough information to determine I'm ready to make a decision based on what I know so far because it seems correct this way. And
Hmm.
I was, as soon as I saw the whole social media thing about the blackout thing, I said, hey, you know what? That makes sense. A group of people are grieving and have this pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe it's racial, but I do have empathy for what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped on it and I posted them on. And fast forward 8 hours later, I'm into it. I'm digging into why are we doing this? What's happening? What is this going to help? How is this going to change things?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started hearing black voices because I was told I need to listen to black voices, and a lot of them are saying, "Take that shit off right now."
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't one. It wasn't Candace Owens. It wasn't Larry Elder. It was dozens and dozens and dozens of people saying, "Take that off right now. It's
Yeah.
not helping anything. It's only making you feel better about something that you haven't done for the past 10 years,
Right.
20 years." And they say,
Yeah.
if you feel like that's something that you need to do to change things around, then you haven't done anything up to this
Right.
point. And I
Right.
thought, you know what, that is more of what I believe, because I have been
Yes.
helping people. And like I told you at the beginning, it's not for any reason other than I want to help people, and I will help people that want to help themselves. And
Yeah.
if I can give you a dollar, and if I can give you a dollar and that's what I have in my pocket, I will give it to you every time.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's, because people have helped me, I'm willing to help other people. And the
Right.
funny thing is, all these people preaching to me and preaching to the world about all this stuff, if you just scroll through their timeline,
Mm-hmm.
this all only starts 2 weeks ago. You know,
Yep. Yep.
if you
Everyone's passionate about it. Actually, it's a new religion, man. I'm telling you,
it is a
it's a new
religion.
religion,
So
and
yeah,
I noticed that there's a lot of religious overtones to this because, like, literally, I am like, at one point in time, I was like thinking I was going to be a pastor of a church. You know
okay,
what I mean?
yeah,
Well, actually, I didn't think I would be, but I thought I'd be like full time preaching, like at a pulpit.
sure, okay,
But like for me, like I can be more effective out in the marketplace,
sure,
just like sharing. I'm not even trying to, make, people convert to a specific religion, but what this is, it's like you convert or else,
or else that's it.
it's
There's
like
no,
it's like a forced conversion. If you don't, you are complete, like, not that
you're a heretic.
your ideas are different or wrong, like it's like you are wrong. You are
Right,
your person. Who you are is evil,
right.
you know
You are, and without a question, like
no question.
the symbols that come to mind for that is the clapping. They start clapping at every word they say because that's
Yeah.
emphasizing. I'm like, so that means
Yeah.
you have no more argument other than to make it louder. And then this other one is like,
Exactly.
oh, the other one they say is, oh, if I have to explain it, then you're just not gonna get it. You're just wrong. I'm like, well, okay,
There's no conversation. There's
right.
no
So there's no
conversation.
conversation, and it's outrageous. And you nailed it. It is a new religion, and if you don't adhere, you're a heretic, and you're committing
So
you're
I
cardinal sin.
so I you according to my timeline, if anybody goes to my timeline, I put everything public. So you can go there, maybe start a fight with me or whatever you want to do, because you may not agree with me. But I
Right.
don't agree with the Black Lives Matter organization.
I was just gonna
I
ask you, what was
and,
your
and
take
like,
on?
yeah, my take is that you don't need to agree with the organization to agree with the phrase. The phrase
Exactly.
is fine,
That's what I
but
told.
the organization is very, very cult like. And if, like, most people don't read through what they believe,
Right.
and I was going through that, like, they want to disrupt the Western nuclear family.
Yep.
Like, and if I'm anybody, I realize a nuclear family, father, mother, kids.
Yep.
Even if I didn't have it, I want it. I
Even
believe that's
so,
the
sorry,
strongest part of our civilization.
you broke up for a second. Even if what?
I was saying, even if I didn't have it growing up,
Yeah.
I want to create my own nuclear family. I'm the dad, there's the mom. These are our kids. We're raising our kids in society.
I agree.
And that's the strongest suit, So it's like, I mean, when they talk about disrupting that, like that gives a red flag to me. Why do you
Sure.
want to disrupt the nuclear family?
Right. Is it
You know?
is the foundational of any society for the entire
Even
history of humanity.
yeah, even before America was around, it was that's the
You call it,
family structure:
yeah,
dad, mother, kids.
right. And I'm what I'm a libertarian now, and
Same here, man. More libertarian. So
yeah, and only in the way that I is the easiest way for me to explain when people say, "Well, what do you believe in?" You know, I hate labels, and until a few years ago, I would refuse to say any labels about anything because everything has its own nuance. So people say, "Well, are you a
nuance.
Democrat or you're a Republican?" I said, I, "I'm neither." And
Yeah.
as I started learning more about it, someone in a conversation years ago said, "Hey, you're a libertarian," and I started looking into it, and that's the closest thing I could align myself with. And even then, I
Right, because not everything lines up
right.
either.
And for example, I am a liberal in a lot of ways. Like I am all for that family that you're talking about. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that family being a same-sex parent. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
because at
And
the end of the day, I think what the kids need is the role models and the stability as they're growing up, and someone that they can count on and rely on and learn from that
mm-hmm.
has their best interests at heart, not a school principal that has
Right.
500 other kids to watch out after, not a social worker that has 60 cases and is overwhelmed. None of
Yeah.
that is going to do what a parent will do that is there 24/7.
Yep.
And
Because the state cannot really do that. The state,
right, well, they can't
and
and they shouldn't.
they
Yeah,
should not. Yeah. And so no, I really believe that, like, part of me is like, get the state out of marriage altogether. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And so, like, get the state out of a lot of stuff, because like the welfare state, that's part of like the disruption of the black community.
Yeah,
And most people don't know that. Maybe they do, but like, I love the way, like, I didn't discover that on my own. I think I was listening to Larry Elder talk about it, and I'm like, okay.
wait, don't mention his name, you're gonna get roasted.
Don't associate.
Yeah,
Don't.
he's not the right kind of black, right?
Not no, he's not black. He ain't black. But if you look at the facts, I mean, and it's unfortunate. Like, every black role model, um, that could be a really good role model is rejected. You know, by
Exactly.
the group think
Do you think
part of
do you think that
black
goes
people.
back do you think that goes back to the culture part that you talked about earlier, where they
I think
say what,
it
like
definitely has a connection.
you were mocked and
Yeah,
teased and kind of made fun of, even from family. And I think we all
yeah,
have the cousin and the friend that's like, oh, like they kind of just mock you and bully you around, friendly. But at the end of
yeah.
the day, it does cut into how you feel about things. And
Oh
I feel
yeah. I mean, it's a group think peer pressure tactic. I come up with
yes,
that phrase. I don't know if I came up with that phrase or not, but that phrase has, come into my conversation, into my thinking more than anything, like this last couple of years.
right.
Group think peer pressure. Like, peer pressure is one level, but then, like, most time peer pressure is, I guess it is about group think, but identifying that, man, this is the thoughts of the group. You need to conform,
Right.
conform, conform, conform,
Well,
conform.
what would you answer to somebody that's listening to watch, or you're watching us or whatever?
About
And well,
answer about.
we're saying right now that perception, that approach is, and I agree with you, it's a group think, it's a mob mentality, so to say. But
Mm-hmm.
somebody on that side, on that group, could say, hey, you guys are part of your own group that have your own group mentality. How would you answer that?
Well, I mean,
Because
I think.
sorry, because
Mhm.
arguably they're going to say that you and I have groupthink, in that
That's
we agree with
that's
many things, right? So how would you address that?
Well, I think there's distinction. I think there should be distinctions because like each person is individual in their beliefs. Like for instance, I do believe that I do believe a little bit differently than you do. Where it comes to like raising kids, I think there should be a mother and a father.
Sure.
But I'm not opposed to the same sex raising kids because that's better than just like nothing, you know.
Better than a single
Um,
parent. That's
Better than a
yeah.
single parent too, you know. But like with the group think part of it, you know, I think I posted a quote. I post so much stuff on my Facebook page, but I heard the quote the other day. I was listening to the Strangest Secret. It's you probably have you heard of that? The Strangest Secret, Earl
I don't.
Nightingale.
No, I don't think
That's
so.
a it's a really good YouTube video that I'll listen to it for motivation and just
Oh,
for a
okay.
little bit direction. It's like a 30-minute audio called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And he says this one quote in there, the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it's conformity. And
Oh, sure.
so, like, it's so easy to conform, you know,
Yes.
but I would say people need courage. They need to be courageous about their positions, where they stand, and why they stand behind them. Because a lot of times people don't
That's
have a
that's
why,
what
you
that's what I
know,
was looking for. The why.
and
Yep. That's it.
yeah, they you gotta have a why if you're gonna stick to it. The only thing that's gonna keep you going is your why, you know.
Yep.
So if you have a certain position but you don't have a why, then you're going to elicit attention, pressure, and if your why is not strong enough, you're going to conform. You're going to give up. And so, like, you know, the like I look back at people who die for their faith as
Sure.
Christians, you know, or die like let's say Gandhi, the dude, didn't he like die for his, you know, cause like freeing the Indians from the British or something like that?
Well, I know that he did a lot of like hunger strikes and stuff like that.
Hunger strikes. Okay,
I
okay.
I thought he died from.
I never read his biography, so I may be wrong, but
Yeah.
I can recall seeing some videos of these monks setting themselves on fire.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
I think that's literally batshit crazy. But the one thing I
it
admire,
is, it is.
but the
And
one
then
thing I admire is the reason that made them do that.
yeah, it's a form of extreme, you know, ism. And I'm not saying we should be extremists
No.
without reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that we should have a you know a settled reason uh why we believe certain things. Like we shouldn't just be extremists.
And
Like I
I
believe
think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I believe in the dignity of human beings,
Yeah.
of humanity. You know, I believe every person has and should be treated with like dignity. You know, and so
I
like
agree.
the reason that's part of the reason why I'm more libertarian in my views as well. And
Sure.
then I also believe the government puts out a lot of propaganda as well. Like for a long time, I believed that weed was bad. I was just under the impression that weed was just completely bad. It had no medicinal purposes. But
Reefer madness, man.
yeah,
Reefer
it's like
madness.
smoking the devil's lettuce.
Have you actually watched Reefer Madness? It's hilarious.
No, I've never seen
Oh,
it.
it's on YouTube.
I'm
I
gonna
think
have
it's
to
on
watch
YouTube.
it. Okay.
It looks like a skit from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it.
And people, there's certain people out there that
They
still
believe it.
feel like that.
I,
Those are
you
things.
know,
Yeah,
and it's like, well, I my views changed on it after I found out that our bodies actually have a system for
to receive it.
endocannabinoids. Right.
Exactly.
To receive it. I'm like, oh, like so we were created for this? Okay, cool. You
Or
know,
it's been in our humanity since
it's been in our
quarter
humanity.
million years, like whatever it may
Yeah.
be.
And because I believe in the dignity of humans, like of humanity, I just think that when a person starts to get like they no longer have control over what they're doing, that's where it gets out of hand. You know what I mean? So like a person drinks and they no longer become functional. Their life is not functioning. That's what I don't think is good. You know what I mean?
Sure, no,
So
I agree.
yeah. And so like I think, I don't know where I was going with that point. Where was I going with that point?
Well,
Conformity.
we were talking about conformity because I asked you the question, and I mean, I think you answered it in a way when I
Okay.
say, how would you answer when somebody accuses us of having our own groupthink? Because
Yeah.
I've gotten it before, and I know what answer I gave him, and you nailed it a minute ago when you say because you can state why, you can explain yourself, and
Yes.
it's not that you and I are posting some slogan that somebody else made and said this is a good thing to post, and then we
Mm-hmm.
post it, and when somebody says, well, what do you mean by that, we say, oh, just look it up. That's the difference,
Right.
I think. Like,
Right. There's
I
a big
get that all the
difference.
time, and I'm not as much of a pot stirrer as you are,
Uh-huh.
but I do ask a lot of questions sometimes, and I admit I'm the first
Uh-huh.
one to admit that the questions I ask sometimes have a bit of a sarcastic tone, but they are legitimate
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And
And
and, and
I,
people get so irritated when I ask a
dude, I got
question.
in trouble. I got in trouble recently
Oh yeah,
from from one of the friends who I know.
is it a mutual
She's
friend
she's not, well, it's not a mutual
or a
friend,
mutual
but
connection? Okay,
kind of
go on.
a no, kind of a romantic interest of
Oh,
mine.
okay, okay.
But she was like, "Why you gotta be
An
so
instigator.
yeah, such an instigator?" I'm like, I just gotta get people to think. That's it.
That's it. And you know what? I on the same topic. I posted a riddle for the first time ever on Facebook
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
Um, n- People have been begging me to tell them the answer, and I have not. And there's a little riddle there, and I won't even tell you. I won't even tell anybody. And the reason for that is because at the end, if anybody solves it, and it's basic, okay, like
Yeah.
it's fourth grade. You're trying to write a note to your crush, and how do you write it so nobody reads it? That's the kind
Yeah.
of cipher. So, and all I did is I put two words in there that represent something that the mainstream media did not talk about, didn't cover,
Mm,
and then it's like it's an exercise in principle where
yes.
everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people that message me say, hey, can you just tell me? I don't have time for this. I'm like,
Yeah.
therein lies the problem. That
That's
you're
the
trying to
problem
make
right
an
there.
opinion. Yeah, you're trying to make an opinion and decisions based on what I'm telling you. And
Mm,
I don't have the answers. I don't want to be the one telling you to think one
right.
way or another. I want you to figure out for yourself. And if we come to an agreement, great. And if we don't, let's talk about why. But
Well,
people,
and I
but,
think,
but
oh, go ahead.
people just want to be spoon fed. They
Well, and
just want
I
to
think,
read the headline and read the summary
hmm
and then say, oh yeah, well I agree with that, so I'm going to post about it or I'm going to share it. And this one,
yeah,
I didn't want to tell anybody anything about it. I didn't want to post it because I didn't want to get into the arguments. I
right.
wanted people to get into it. And the glory of the riddle is when you solve it and you Google it, you will find out what the whole riddle meant. And then
Hmm.
you're going to make your own decisions about to whatever that means
Well, I
to
think
you.
that's
So,
amazing. No, that's I think I saw it and I was like, man, I have to come back and check it out again because I can't, like, at this moment I
sure.
can't really try to solve it because I was like, I was on a whole really crazy day yesterday and
Yeah,
today
and I'm
too.
sure most people
But
are, and I'm not blaming you,
yeah,
but I'm not looking down on anybody that is busy and stuff. But I'm just saying,
right,
in this one, I'm not gonna give you the link. I'm not gonna give you the video. I'm gonna let you
right.
see if you want to figure out, and in the process, maybe just maybe, plant the seed about what you're being told and how you
Hmm.
need to verify it in a way or another. So,
And I think at the bottom of that though, it's like there's an assumption that you have, which displays the dignity of human beings.
yeah,
Because, like, at the bottom of having questions that make people think, it's just like, I assume that you're smart enough to get this. Now, that goes back to certain mindsets that, are proposed by some political candidates, where they don't want you to think.
no,
They don't want you to break away from the group think. They want you to think they can solve all of your problems.
right,
And it's like, I don't know if you ever heard the soft bigotry of low expectations. That phrase right there. I have heard several people use it, but basically towards, like, it's used towards the Black community, you know,
Okay.
um, because we know, like, let me just say it this way: many Black people vote, and I'm not trying to get into politics, but many Black people vote Democrat.
Oh,
You know,
dude, we're
and so
well beyond that by now.
right. So the whole premise of the soft bigotry of low expectation is that I am not able to do for myself because I'm Black.
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
their expectations of my success are not, are that you can't succeed without my help. I want to
Right.
help you. You know,
That
let's
goes, and that goes back to the whole white privilege and white guilt and the blackout thing that I heard from
yes,
this group of people say, stop trying to help us. Like,
mm,
it's
yes,
2020. We're not oppressed by you. We can figure
right,
this out. And
yes,
that was also a message for the other people that feel
yes,
like they're oppressed and they're being held down. It's like, by what?
yes, and that's the whole thing. It's like there's a thing that a lot of people talk about is there's the victim's mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I am very like self-pity, the victim's mentality. It's a hard thing to break away from unless you become aware of what it is and you make a conscious decision to break away
Yes.
from it.
And
Because
you need to convince yourself that you are in charge of your destiny.
yes, yeah, and like I put together an outline of some things that I wanted to talk about in several videos. And like I I I put a topic on it, profiting off the Black market. So I haven't put together I haven't put it together as a video series or haven't written a book, but I just wrote down a lot of points. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I want to put this into something and present it, like because this is my perspective, you know. And I wrote something about the victim's mentality, and this is what I wrote right here. It says the victim's mentality is like a parasite that attaches itself to people who have suffered real hardship. I understand hardship. However, we have an option to accept victimhood status or to take on the mindset of a conqueror. Sometimes I feel like pulling my victim cards.
Yeah.
It's my victim card. It's just the quickest and most convenient way to abdicate responsibility and elicit sympathy. In those times, I've got to remind myself that accepting victim status will only emasculate, invalidate, and demoralize my own ability to find a solution. And
Oh yeah.
that's what it
You
just
nailed it.
it comes down to, like breaking yourself of that parasite.
Yeah. It
Victimhood is a parasite.
it is because and the thing that people don't realize is not just a person. It's not
Yes.
another race. It's
Nope.
anything. It can be, oh well, it's been raining, so I couldn't do my work. It's somebody else's
Mm,
problem, and it's
mm.
never owning up to it. And it's like
Outside things keeping you from what you
what
can
you
do internally,
or
which really
what
should keep you from doing what you can do,
yeah, and not even what you can, what you should do.
what you
You know,
should do. Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
have a if I have an auto detailing business and I
Hmm.
have 3 days of rain, yeah, I can't go out and wash cars, but guess what I can do? I can get on the phone every single hour to call past clients, new clients. Hey, as soon as this is over, when do you want to schedule your next call? But
Hmm.
instead, they'll sit there and mope about it and say, "Oh, well, it's raining. I can't make any money."
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
that's the
technically,
mentality.
that's true. That is true. Now, I posted something on Facebook the other day about the phones being down. I had calls to make to client, and all of T-Mobile was down.
Yes.
But what did I do? I did complain about it on Facebook. That was bad.
Hey,
But here's the
it's
thing: it gave me some time to work on curriculum that I've been putting together. You
exactly.
know,
You didn't sit there twiddling your thumbs, complaining to yourself and whining about how you couldn't make your phone calls. You figured something else that you needed to do, and you
yeah,
got that done. And
yeah.
I remember that post because I actually responded to you. I said, "Hey, it could also." You said, "I can't get anything done," and I said, "Well, it could also be the most productive because then now you have
I
no
saw that and
distractions."
I was like, damn it, Oscar.
Yep. I'm going to call you on that because I mean, we live and die by this. But
It's true. It's true.
if this dies sometimes for like an hour, I'm like, okay, I have no busting, no nothing. I could just focus on this, and
It
I
was
like
so
that so much.
funny though, because I had what seemed like such an urgent call at the moment.
Sure.
Like I had a few calls that I needed to make that seemed so urgent, but all of the phones were down. And I'm just like, okay,
Yeah, but at that
it's
point,
gonna
I
have to
mean,
wait. It's gonna have
yeah,
to wait, you know?
exactly. And that in that regard, it's not a victim issue. It's like the coronavirus. Like, hey,
Yep,
I can't go out
yep.
and work. Well, guess what? Nobody can. So
Learning to adopt is
and
like boom,
and it's a
you know.
level playing field. Level playing
That's
field is
true.
the issue. So yeah.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I had so many other questions that I took notes as you were talking and stuff.
All right,
I
we can
do.
do a few more. I mean, if
Yeah,
you want to.
let me ask you one more, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
We're at an hour and a half right now, I
Yeah.
think. And
Okay.
not just to, I mean, I could keep going on for hours talking,
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
but
I do.
I also have a respect for your time, and then also I want people to actually watch this, because
Yeah.
here's the thing, and you know it, and I know it. We might get roasted for this, and I would almost put money. I would say 90% the people that will roast us will not watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. Definitely.
will watch 5 minutes here and there. They'll scrub through and find one thing that they want to nitpick about
Yeah.
and bitch
Yeah.
about it till the day's over and not actually
I
watch the whole thing to
I know.
understand.
I know. Well, it's like my post on Facebook. Like people will read. You know. Yeah. I think everyone has their own perspective too. So I'm like I'm more of a guy who like when I was. I think there are just certain things that as I grew up I learned and I'm like, okay, this is something I need to practice. And one of my things that I try to do is persuade people.
Sure.
So I'm all about persuasion. Some people will never be persuaded, but I'm gonna maintain that cordialness with them.
Yeah.
Like I don't unfriend people on on
Sure.
Facebook often. You know, like I think maybe a few people I blocked because they were just so profane. I just have to
Sure.
block. You know, they didn't want conversation. They just wanted to cuss me out and f you mother effer blah blah blah. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, sorry, gotta block you. You know, because that's
Yeah.
unproductive. You know,
Right. I responded to that post that you made about that, and I said, well, there were in the past like 5 years, I think I've removed myself from two or three people like that.
yeah,
And the latest one wasn't that they were like being obscene or anything,
yeah,
but it was just every single time I would post anywhere in social media, not just on mine, not just on Facebook, they would come and pretend to be this friend and pretend to make a comment, but then it was just a nasty person, and it's like there's
man,
nothing gonna come out of it. You already think I'm a racist,
yeah,
which is hilarious.
this is
I I
ridiculous.
the first time somebody said that to me, they actually called me a Nazi sympathizer and a racist,
What?
and I was upset. I was like, what the like? I got mad. I'm like, wait a
Yeah,
minute. And after that, now it's so funny because here I am, uh, an immigrant,
yes,
that became a citizen, married somebody from another race.
yes,
My best friend is from yet another race. Most of my friends are not white.
yeah,
Um, I help like so now is now when I say it, like when I see the conversation going on chat, and I'm thinking, okay, I know where this is going, and I'm thinking, how many messages before they call me racist? And it's
right.
just like a little game, because
It's a
the people that
countdown.
yeah, the people that know me would laugh at that, and
Yeah,
these
and
people
most
that
of the time,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, most of the time it's the people that don't really they've never met you in person. Like
Right.
you maybe
Oh,
just kind of
some of these people have met me in person, and
oh wow.
we've had a
Yeah.
drink, or we've had a meal, or we've met at a meetup.
Wow.
And then but then they think they know everything, and they think because you post a headline or you post an article that
Yeah.
you automatically subscribe to everything the article
Everything in
says,
it.
and
Yeah.
everything that the author believes in, and everything that the author has ever written about. And if you don't agree, like the religious part of it, then you're against. You're either for or
That's
against.
true.
There's no in between.
Yeah,
And
it's like you said, the religious part, it's almost religious. It's like the new religion, you know.
yeah,
Because because there's nuance, and that's the biggest part. Is like people don't, they, like I said, they don't make distinctions, they don't
Right.
distinguish between, what they don't ask either to say, well, like, what part do you actually agree with on this,
Right. Or
like, 'cause
what
that
do
would
you
make a
disagree?
difference.
Yeah.
And going back to principles again, one of the principles taught in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, is seek first to understand, then to be
We understand.
understood. So
Here's the
most, if everyone were like that, seeking to understand first, then be understood, it'd be a great, perfect world, man.
dude. It would fix 90% of the problems. And you know what's the most ironic part about it?
What's
That
that?
that person that I told you kind of berated me and stuff yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, because I invited this person to have a Zoom call
Mm.
the first time around, which she kind of called me out, and this
Mm-hmm.
time around as well. And I said, the call is still open anytime you want. And
Right.
you can see the thread, but then I said, but I'm done talking about it here because obviously this is sensitive.
Right.
And I closed with the quote that you just said: "Seek first to
Mm.
understand, then to be understood." And it's right there on
And to be
Facebook.
understood. It's
So
so,
and
it's that's
it
that's
went
perfect.
right over it went right over their head. It's I
Well, and that's like, I think that's the other part about it, is that it seems like, if you're a thought leader, and you're like, I see you as a thought leader, Oscar. So, like, you
I don't know.
have the, I mean, I know, you don't have to claim it, but I'm just saying, to a degree, you are leading, with thoughts, and helping people to think as well. That's what I see as a thought leader. Like,
Okay,
some people just post stuff, like, I have people come onto my thread, and they will post just article after article trying to prove me wrong.
right.
And then I'll ask them, I'll say, what do you believe about this article? Or I'll delete their article that they posted, and they come back and post more. And I'm just like, let's have a real conversation. Like, I don't
Sure.
want their thoughts. Give me your thoughts,
Right.
And it's
At
so
least,
funny.
yeah, at least quote a part of the article and say
Yeah,
this is right because da 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 da. And
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, this the one that I had. I said, well, what is the problem? Like, she said, well, what are you trying to imply with this? I'm like, I'm not trying to imply. I said what I said. And then here's the funny thing. She asked a couple of questions and I answered them. Nope, those were not part of the discussion anymore. It's like, hey, I answered your question. Now what? And then she went on to something else and on something else.
It's so crazy, man.
It is. Here's
Yeah.
a
Well,
here's the
people just.
last.
Oh,
Here's
go
the what?
ahead. I was just gonna say, sometimes people just have their own thoughts about it, and they're not willing to accept it. Anything else?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I think a lot of times we get, and I'm into a whole Gary V kick right now with content and
Oh yeah,
marketing.
yeah,
I am
absolutely.
I am 150% vested into his approach of things because it just seems like that's the best way to go about anything. He says,
Right.
be positive, be empathetic, do
Yeah.
your thing. He talks, for example, he talks about if you want to have the biggest building in town, you don't go around sabotaging other builders. You build your building,
Woo!
right? You
That's
build your
good.
building. Yeah, you build your
Yeah,
building. Whatever they're
that's so
doing,
good.
they're building.
Yeah.
Let them be. But if you take the
Yeah.
time, if you take the time to get down from your scaffolding and the building that you're working to go try to sabotage your own, guess what? Yours is going to get stuck while they figure out the solution to your sabotage.
Yeah,
And
dude, that's so
so,
true.
yeah, so it's like people have this hate or this issues that they want to pu- push into someone else. And I told another friend that has similar situation, which is, a lot of people don't like it when I'm positive online and stuff. Yeah, well, sometimes people, and the other, kind of cliche came to my mind where misery loves company. People like,
True.
you
That's
know,
true.
and it's understandable. It's a human thing. Like if you are grieving for somebody that died, you don't want somebody to be cheery and laughing next to you. Like it bothers you, and I get that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's a next step. It's a next level when you feel like it's your right to go and consciously project that onto somebody else online because you have taken the time to write something and you know that what you're saying is incomplete because you don't know what you're saying to be true about the other person, but you want to make it so, and then you want to dunk on them. You want to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I told you so. Yeah, take that, that kind of thing. And it's like, if that's is if that's it, that's where discourse is going now, then
Yeah.
we're kind of in trouble. And
Yeah.
but
We need more empathy, more understanding for sure.
exactly, more asking questions and listening. The same
Mm.
thing about the 7 habits, the quote that we just talked about.
Yeah.
A lot of people listen only so they can respond. They're just waiting to respond. They're not listening to hear and understand. They're listening, just waiting for them to respond. That's,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
absorbing what you're saying. They're just waiting for you to finish, if they even let you finish, so that they can just give you their 2 cents. And it's kind
Mm.
of a bummer. But I wanted to ask you earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
So we came to, so just to kind of summarize some of the things you said. You believe racism, of course, is real. I believe this too,
Yeah.
right? Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, and you experienced it hands-on growing up, um,
Personally, I
personally. And
here and my take is this: is that if I feel racism today, I don't notice it as racism. I
right,
s- I don't let's just say a person is, because if a person is racist, unless they call me the N word, I won't know they're racist.
right, you
I
don't
just
know
think
what's in their
I
mind or
just
their heart.
I just think they're a negative person. I just think they're a negative person. I'm not gonna get what I need from them. I'm going somewhere else. You
Right,
know, like I'll
typically
take my
agree.
business elsewhere. So like I'm not as focused on the racist behind the bush, because
Sure.
racism is a hard issue.
Right.
Like from the Christian scriptures, it's sin, and so people who are racist, I recognize that as part of the human, condition, and
Sure.
I choose my response because between
Because
stimulus,
you're in control of that.
yeah, because between stimulus and response, there's always a choice. The
Right.
stimulus could be a person denying you for a bank loan or denying you for credit. And you may say, my response is, I think they're racist,
Right.
you know?
And I'm gonna go. Yeah.
Or you could say, my choice is they deny me, I'm going elsewhere. Someone's going to give me some business.
Right.
Someone's going to give me what I need. There's a million choices, and that's why I'm glad we have a free market economy, And
Most
so
for the most part.
for the most part, yeah. And so like I would just say, like, at this point, can anyone tell me a racist law that we have in the United States? No one.
That was my next
No one,
question.
no one can tell me any laws that are racist against black people in the United States.
Well,
Well,
against
you
any
might have,
race.
yeah, against any race, yeah, and that's why like the whole systemic racist argument to me, it's I don't think it bears anything on how black people can, or any race, but since everyone wants to say, talk about black people right now, I'm just saying it bears no meaning on how they can succeed or cannot
Well,
succeed.
well, since we don't have an opposing side here, real quick,
Okay.
let me just define two different words, because this is what they come back to me and say. Well,
Yes.
systemic is what you just said, from the definition that people believe to be true, is institutionalized racism, because it's
Institutional or
built into
systemic.
institutional. But then they will say that what they're talking about is systematic, which means it's not written
Deliberate.
anywhere. It's just hidden somehow in some understated code between people to deny you that loan or to deny you whatever. And then,
Hmm.
so that's, I just kind of wanted to make that, because they're going to say that if they hear this. And I say, well,
Right.
so do
Right.
you
So it's
do you
just
feel like there's a systematic racism where, even if there's no laws that say, hey, black people cannot come into this business, or Asian people can get this first, do you believe there's systematic racism?
I don't think there are laws that enforce systematic racism.
Right.
Like affirmative action is a good example of a law that was kind of a racist law,
Well, I was
Uh,
gonna, yeah, go ahead.
I won't go into detail on that, but I would say anybody who looks up affirmative action, I think there's that, like I said, there's the soft bigotry of low expectations. When you set low expectations for a person and say, hey, we're going to admit you into a college
Yeah.
just because of this color of your skin, that puts me at a disadvantage. Like
Yes.
the way, listen, I if like I posted something on my one of my Facebook posts that says, or I posted on Instagram as well, but it says if an egg is broken from the outside in, then life will end. But if an egg is broken from the inside out, life
Hey,
begins.
that's good.
So
Yeah.
in a way, when you look at it, affirmative action is like breaking the egg
Yeah.
from the outside in, you know,
Absolutely.
because when you try to give people a like continually giving them um, uh,
Uh,
system
uh,
benefits and advantage, which there were benefits and advantages written into the system that were against black people for sure.
yeah.
But
Where? Yeah.
I go all the way back to Booker T. Washington,
Yeah.
and I look at his example, and I
Wait,
love
wait, wait. He's another. He's not the right kind of black now.
he's another one. Yeah, but like, and I know a lot of people called him the great betrayer, and but here's the thing: Booker T was a former slave. He had
Yes.
it worse than most black people today.
More.
He,
I
but
would say
he
than
like
almost
probably
any
100% of black people today. Yeah, I mean,
in
but
the
I'm
United
just
States. Yeah.
in the U.S. because we're specifically U.S. demographic. But Booker T, up from slavery, you can listen to the audiobook on YouTube. You can go research his life. The man accomplished so much,
Yeah.
and like I look at him to gain inspiration. I look at Ben Carson for inspiration. I look at like not just black people either, because I'm like honestly like if we can get past the artificial or the superficial and start seeing people as people, racism won't be an issue. You
I,
know what I mean?
I love.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when somebody tells me, yeah, there's systematic racism, I say, yes, affirmative action is the best example because
Exactly.
that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Exactly.
It is putting down Asians and whites in
Mm-hmm.
favor of another race.
Exactly.
But
No.
but
And
oh, you see their minds explode when you tell them that. Like, how
yeah,
can
and
you even think like that? Yeah.
because people don't think racism can go the other way, which that's actually, I mean, I don't get how
It's
that's
not.
not possible.
That's
That
nonsense.
it's nonsense.
Yeah.
But it's just like at the end of the day, it's like, what do you want to hold on to? What reality do you want to hold on to? Like the egg illustration again. Like if that bird isn't ready to graduate
Yeah.
and to become a hatched bird, he's gonna die.
Right. He's not gonna
So
have. Yeah.
you need that hardship in your, like for me, like I told a little bit of my story, but my story is it involves a lot of hardship. And where I'm at in life, landing, super large projects and entrepreneurial, self-employed person, the person I am today only happened because I honestly, like, I was the baby, the last child in my family, and I would watch like my brother and my sister get handouts from my grandmother and my mom all the time, get money. I would see them leave the house, move out on their own, then move back into the house. And it's like they couldn't make it out in
Right.
the world. And I vowed to myself, when I leave, I'm never coming back. And so I left, I moved out, and I made a decision. I am not coming back. I made a decision.
Mhm.
Like I didn't allow my circumstances to dictate. Verious, you got laid off. You need help. You know, I I stayed there and I stood my ground and I used my resources and I used my creativity and I used the brain that God gave me to cold call people. And I used that to build a clientele. And finally, I'm in California now. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I'm just saying, like, I was ready because I've been preparing myself.
Right.
And
But
I graduated. The egg wasn't broken from the outside, and I
yeah,
graduated. I broke it out from the inside, So
I agree. Without those hardships, then we don't ever live to our potential, and that's just how it
it's the
is.
struggle. It's the
Yeah.
struggle that makes the growth. And a lot of people are afraid of growth and they're afraid of struggle. When you build a muscle, you have to lift heavy to tear the muscle, and the muscle grows back stronger. And so when I refuse to take handouts, like even during this pandemic, I refused to apply for like certain things that I could have applied for. But the reason, and the other thing was when I got laid off from my job, I could have applied for unemployment. I honestly didn't even go for unemployment. They told me I could.
It makes you a little bit complacent. It makes you a little bit like, oh, okay, I can relax. It makes you
comfortable. And it goes down to the principle of like, like people don't understand. Like there's just something innate in me that tells me you need to struggle this out, Verious. Like, because the growth that you're going to get from this versus if you go this other route, it's going to be greater. And you see people walking around, like I personally am like into bodybuilding, and I want to do a bodybuilding contest maybe next year.
But you want to be part of? You want to join as a contestant?
I want to be a contestant next year sometime. Like I've stated that goal several times. So if I don't do it, I'm gonna look silly. Sure. But when I see these bodybuilders with these massive muscles, I know they've worked hard. Even if they took performance enhancing supplements like steroids or something, they still got to work.
Sure.
They still got to lift, and they got to, they have to exert themselves hard. And so that's what I'm saying. That taking action, it's possible no matter what level a person is on to take action.
I agree. And I just tagged you on a post I made about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks on Instagram, because I was I was looking to a Quentin Tarantino interview. You know Evan Carmichael, right? Have you heard of him or his
YouTube? Believe Nation, right?
Oh, maybe. I know I follow him because he has a series of the 10 top rules for such and such success. Yeah.
Yep. And his like, I think it's called Believe Nation or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he had one from Quentin Tarantino, and one of the things Quentin says, he had to get out of this area where he was because he was outperforming everybody there. And he's like, yeah, I can do great here, but I'm a fish swimming in a little puddle. And he moved out to LA or whatever.
Wow.
And he started talking to the big producers and the big movie makers. And he says, the point of the quote at the end, it says, I should be the weakest link in my chain.
Right. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, because then that makes you strive for more and harder. He said, if you run 100 meters with people in your class, you have a high chance of winning, and that's going to fill you up and feel great. But if you run in a class above you, you may always come in third or fourth, maybe even last, but you're always going to get stronger because you see them pulling away, and you're like trying to keep up. Dude, and they're gonna smoke you each time. But then at the end,
that's such a good point.
Yeah, at the end, your time will be better, your legs will be stronger, and maybe you'll move on to the next class and the next one and the next one. But if you play at your level, that's where you get stuck.
So that gives me inspiration too, because like that reminds me of like when I was in high school and I played football, I was also a power lifter, but I always worked out in the weight room. I worked out with the linemen because they were always lifting super heavy. So that also gives me inspiration for my business as well, because one of our businesses in the business incubator down here in Riverside, we have a business incubator. They just raised $2 million. And I'm just like, I've been watching these guys. And I'm like, man, this is challenging me. So I'm like, I got to step up my game. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go out to LA and start getting around some more people as well. And
well, I have my thoughts. We can talk more about later on. The whole raising money on that. But yeah, I see what you mean.
No. So they have like a couple of campaigns going on. They have like some investment money, and I do have some thoughts on that. We could talk about it, and we probably agree on it. You know what I mean? But then they also have like a crowdfund campaign where they've already got like $750,000.
Sure.
And I'm just like, that's freaking awesome,
Yeah, that motivates you when you see stuff like that, and especially when they're in your circles, you're like, okay, I got to step up my game. Yeah.
Totally.
So the last thing I'll ask you, you talk about your job and your career and how you kind of pass that. Okay, so we agree because you didn't say explicitly, but I'm pretty sure you alluded to it, that racism isn't going away, period, right?
No, no,
Not
not at
today,
all.
not tomorrow. Maybe if you were to believe the whole thing about us being in a simulation, or that we're going to eventually reach AI, you've heard of that, right?
It's fun. It's fun to think about that, but no,
Yeah,
I don't totally buy into that. But
I don't
you know,
either.
it's
And
always
but I mean, maybe in 1,000 years, maybe in 5,000 years, if we're still around, if we haven't blown ourselves up, maybe we figure out a way to remove
maybe
racism. Maybe, but in the
possibly.
meantime, it's not there. But
Yeah,
let's put you, Verious, in control. You are the king of the world right now, and what you say goes. What you say happens. And you have a magic wand. What do you do to fix the the issues that we're seeing right now? And what is the solution that addresses all this division that we have? People saying the whites are racist, the white people, like basically murders, interracial murders that people don't happen to talk about, but
yeah, yeah,
oh yeah, it's a white man oppressing us. Well, okay,
yeah.
and all this stuff. But how do you fix this issue so we can move forward for a better tomorrow? Like, what do you do? What is it?
That's a man. That's a loaded question. Yeah, and it probably wouldn't be one thing that I would do, but like if I could somehow get people's brains to think, this person in front of me is just like me. They're a real person. You know, they have emotions, they have feelings, but we have different thoughts.
Yeah,
You know, to humanize each other. That's like one of the biggest things I would do first. Because when we demonize one another, we don't see each other as human, and we don't have conversations, and we cancel and cut each other off.
right.
And I think like that's a big problem, because if we don't understand or seek to understand first, we won't be understood. We won't even have the ear of the person who we're arguing with. I think that that, learning to give a little first, seeking to understand, it's like planting a seed. You're not going to experience the fruit immediately of a good relationship,
Right.
but you've opened the door to us actually conversing and maybe developing some common ground, and then maybe developing a friendship, and then maybe understanding each other as brothers, arts brothers and sisters, and then no longer caring about the color of our skin.
Right.
It's like Martin's dream, man. His
I
dream,
agree. I
his
agree.
dream was that little black boys, little white boys could sit at the table together
Yep.
and be brothers. Like
You know,
brotherhood is above everything. That's why the violence is so self-defeating. It's
yeah,
an
it
inward
is.
spiral. It's an inward spiral,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So
I there's another thing I do. I mean, and that was a pretty good answer. I think that's a good summary of, I think, a good approach. Um, I've seen some people saying, "Hey, you have to tell your kids about this," and I'm like, no. When I'm telling my kids to go and play with every kid that they can for whatever reason, and
why
that's it.
make them aware of like the strife of
I,
the
I
world?
don't- and I don't want to
Teach
make
them
him.
principles,
Yeah, I
you
don't want to
know?
make him notice that. They're gonna
Yeah.
notice what they're gonna notice as they're growing up. But
Yep.
if the first interactions they have is me telling them, "Hey, you got to be gentle with them because they're black and somebody's going to treat them badly, and you don't want to be perceived this," they're gonna go in
Wrong
hesitating
expectation.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if my kids were black and I was to tell them, "Hey, I got to sit down with you and have this talk. When you go out, this is going to happen," and it's like, why am I like pre
Programming them.
yeah pre-programming to expect that? Why not say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're going to do great, do your best, do what I taught you, try your hardest,
Yeah.
live by those principles we talked about,
Yeah.
and do your best." And people are going to tear you down because people seem to be assholes sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not
And
going to be
even
the color
like,
of your skin, it's not going to be the preference of your spouse, it's not going to be any of
yeah,
that. It's going to be because some people have issues and they want to take it out on you.
right. And even like like myself, like I stopped noticing like the whole like maybe it's just my perspective, maybe it's just the way I look at the world and just the way I've learned to operate. It's like I don't notice that. Like I don't see racism. It's like I don't look at the system and see a bunch of racist people. Like that's I don't know why that's put out there. And the more you bring it up and the more you put it out there, the more people, you know, the more people are aware of it, then they give attention to it and they question themselves and they become unsure. Oh, am I this? Am I this? No, it's not. It's forget that, man. Like you're my brother.
Yep.
You know, we all are human. You know.
Right.
I mean, Morgan Freeman did well on the Don Lemon interview. I'm pretty sure. Maybe you have. If you haven't seen that quote, Morgan Freeman was on Don Lemon uh, show, and Don Lemon's like, do you think there's systematic racism? You should look it up. It's on
Oh,
YouTube.
I did. I
Oh,
watched it.
yeah, it's good. And Morgan Freeman was like, no,
He
you and
nailed
I.
it. Yeah.
I'm like, boom, come on, man.
Yeah, and he did a previous one years ago on a 60-minute, and it was kind of similar answers that he gave. And
So good.
out
But
of
that
yeah,
doesn't fit into the agenda, so they
no,
won't
of course
they
not.
won't talk about that.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Awesome.
it's been really great talking to you, man. I appreciate your
Same,
time.
same, bro.
I will let you know as soon as I post this, and you can share it if you want. Let us know.
Definitely.
Tell people really quick where they can find more about you. Maybe a couple of websites or your social, whatever you want to plug it in.
Okay, I'm Verious Smith. It's like serious but with a V. So it's not like VA but VE. Verious Smith. You could just search me up, Verious Smith III on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm Verious Smith. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. But from there, you can find all my other ventures because I have a lot of ventures. One in particular, Start Empire Wire, that I'm still working on the website. It hasn't really officially launched, but it's a news website, place for entrepreneurs, place for startups. And if you're in the Inland Empire, you can come check us out at the WordPress, our Inland Empire WordPress meetup group, which we hold 3 different meetings per month. But because of COVID, it's all via Zoom right now. So yeah, come check us out and
Right.
check me out. Thanks for having me, Oscar.
Perfect. Thanks for jumping in. So it's short notice, and talk to you soon, buddy.
No problem. All right, brother. Take care.
All right, take it easy. Bye.